Chapter 7. Dialogue. Quote, "If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor." Desmond Tutu. From there he crosses a new dimension, after overcoming that suffering that removes that constructed and poorly formed layer of social concepts to allow a clear understanding of the environment and its interior, its center, formless in the nothingness. Answer that call from his best friend, who talks intimately with him, with a family love, a confidence that seals the Lord of Spirits and the Son of Man, because it is the Master who selects the disciple. Without fear, but with respect before the law of goodness, who creates in the chiaroscuro a way to continue with the internal awakening of his sons and daughters. So, they begin a dialogue, a conversation that penetrates the corners, and the most difficult debris to observe with the being of a different position, order, and rank. Despite being of the same gender and being blood brothers in humanity, if not, then just a sprite in a human body. But at the same time, they are governed by different affinities. This is where the position of Patriarch, Pontiff Final, PPF, and the Son of Man is born. In the union of the traditional or orthodox and the innovation that corrects what is wrong. From that which has lost its way through the corruption of man and woman, through the eons because it rusts every metal and ages everybody, as it is not adapted to certain atmospheres, and it oxidizes. So, two colors are brought together with a delicate pixel that leads to the origin of white and dark in balance, in movement with the origin of life, which is a mystery in itself, but we can all feel it. And it is for this reason that the patriarch and head of the sex religion showed him the first step of a public emulation of emeritus peace, of the false good God, who changes gender or political position according to the opportunistic advantages of the moment, from woman to man or from man to woman. And so he creates a true pilgrimage of penance, carrying the Heyoka peace pipe of the Native Americans for the pain suffered by so many innocent souls, and re-educating the son, the prodigal son of James Tissot, who had lost his way, and therefore he set an example of life for him. And so the son accepted it, and learned from his mistakes, from the sins he had committed, and asked for forgiveness from the patriarch before the bells rang at the dawn of the cathedral in the western center of the Rhineland, because all this is a test that everyone must go through to be purified. So, before returning to his father in spirit, the old emperor in exile, the son had to cleanse his mind, body, and soul, even when he started running fast like Quetzalcoatl, because walking was not enough to free the 4 cardinal points before the sun rose, and so the gates opened, forgiving the son who was now a man, and the son wanted to hug the patriarch and celebrate this new alliance, this new unity with them. Therefore, the son had to complete a mission, his project, his calling, or else the celebration of the union would be very brief for humanity, for the freedom of it. And although the son had wounds to see and greet them all, it was not possible. He could only give a bow of respect, forgiving himself and forgiving others, and ask for the blessing before everything begins. But the most important thing is that this new unity provides the necessary balance to stop the evil that approaches and gets closer and closer. And not wasting time would be paramount, because what happened will not be repeated before another human being, as the sacrifices were many, and divide et impera no longer works in the light of eternal forces. That's why, Patriarch, it's better to live in compassion, or as you teach us, in mercy, than to create 6 years of self-destruction, wars, for all nations, and this earth will be the testimony. Oh, Patriarch, do not confirm the statements of Martin Luther when he said again, it was a political power, not spiritual, and become the change that this world needs. So be it. Meditates the son, and pleads with the patriarch to stop this wheel of torture for the most defenseless. Now is the time for each one to carry their own water bucket, and then we will learn the value of each drop we let fall along the way. Be attentive, my friend, and listen to the 1 Peter 5:8, which says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Therefore, the stone he works with is perfect. So do not be afraid, and show the great kindness that our God shows you. Behold, the mountain of the Lord, the stone of Israel, the people of the oracle. Shema Israel, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and your neighbor as yourself. Do this, and you will have eternal life." Amen. The chosen people of God, like the other 999 peoples, and do not be afraid of great leaders like Nicodemus, for they cannot see your dreams. Because what God has prepared for you is only for you, not for your friend or your brother, much less for your wife or partner. To see your vision, they must be born again. John 3:3. Jesus answered and said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. Quote, all things excellent are as difficult as they are rare. Baruch Spinoza. So, do not allow people without a genuine life proposal to create drama in you, as you always deserve something better. And if you are hurt, be calm, because Jesus came to establish freedom for those who are hurt. And no matter how many times you fall, you are not perfect, but at least you are not false. You rise, shake off the dust from the fall, and move forward. Because Jesus expressed, I came not to send peace, but a sword. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. Since Christ is not comfort, but brings internal warfare with yourself to fight that battle with the man you think you are, until you allow yourself to conquer yourself. And there the external wars with conscience end in unity, when the devil has become divine as well, because you recognize him for what he is, in singularity that unites both, masculine and feminine energies, intertwined into one, without opposition, but rather in balance. No more internal struggles or worship. Be freely aware and enter a higher level of being. Enter in Dharma and exit from karma. Knowing more nuances hidden in the darkness to emerge into a new dimension, and compassionately put all this new power you have in yourself at the service of others, solely and exclusively for good. Transforming your being, I am, into a phase of enlightenment, as in Hebrew it would be called Elohim, with a spark of free consciousness, with a pure architecture to commune with God, with self-awareness, and awaken to connect the spirit directly with our enlightened and clear thinking. It is time to release Italicus and Tibet from this long slavery. The first dropped with a little cancer, smaller than the island of Nauru, located in the heart of its magnificent body, to keep it weakened in spirit and thus not let it walk elegantly with its boots. The second, deceived, burned, violated, and stripped of its identity by its goodness and innocence, and for which he still lives in exile today, unable to watch over this beautiful world from above, thanks to a great red dragon that used its power against the good. And how beautiful it is to take advantage of those who cannot defend themselves and do nothing against you. But you can only see and taste Formosa, Taiwan, in culinary recipes. Similarly, you can have the fragrances of ancient incense in a market, since the fragrant port, Hong Kong, is independent. Because the time of imperialism, colonialism, and every influence of neocolonialism cannot continue to repeat itself. And it is our duty to protect every kind of minority on this earth with true leaders who represent their peoples and collaborate with each other to form a new and unique race of human beings in the time of Saskia. And yes, these presidents, ministers, or governors will have to take care of their physical and mental well-being to work and execute in symbiosis within the country and with other nations, so they will lead a good life to be more efficient in their daily tasks. However, abusing public resources and the power of a government for their own selfish ends will not be accepted and will not benefit anyone. With the acceptance of a maximum optimal transitional government, where they will have a time less than or equal to 5 years, time first plus time second max, so that when these servants of humanity return home, they can live in serenity with their loved ones regardless of creed, because they have accepted fate and integrated it as necessary. The absorption of all amor fati. This entails true collaboration and cooperation among all countries that have freely decided to adhere to this new harmonious order, as they are conscious servants of the eternal return, because everyone has the right to live honestly, to leave this world better, not for us but for the new generations of humanity, as we found it before leaving. So, enjoy every minute, ichigo ichie, every present that this existence gives you, because it is wise to understand that in the game of life, memento mori, death always wins, but you can decide how to play the best chess game for the good of all. And I can guarantee that it is better to dance than to be just a spectator outside the dance floor, to unite forces in harmony. Since if the sun joins the moon, because Allah has shown a path of compassion to Muslim brothers, without reinterpretation and religious tolerance. Seeing the poetry and beauty of this land manifested in nature itself, granting you the necessary resources to create everything you want for yourself and others, use it. As Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi reminds us, lose yourself in this love. When you lose yourself in this love, you will find everything. Therefore, it is that reinterpretation. The noble Quran does not accept modified parentheses, because not even those who live blissfully in heaven or those who suffer in hell can understand the grandeur of God that must be eliminated to revive tolerance among brothers and live together in serenity among all nations, because no one is better than anyone else. Proclaiming oneself better than another race or culture is just the ego and the falsehood of the self speaking behind them without love. In this way, one day in London, while the sun was walking through the city, he stopped because he was near a mosque and went in to pray. Thereby he opened at random and read the Quran. Surah 22, Al-Hajj, part 12 to 17. 12. He calls besides Allah to that which can neither harm him nor profit him. That is a straying far away. 13. He calls to him whose harm is nearer than his profit. Certainly an evil Mawla, patron, and certainly an evil friends. 14. Truly, Allah will admit those who believe in Islamic monotheism and do righteous good deeds according to the Quran and the Sunnah, to gardens underneath which rivers flow, in paradise. Verily, Allah does what He wills. 15. Whoever thinks that Allah will not help him, Muhammad, in this world and in the hereafter, let him stretch out a rope to the ceiling and let him strangle himself. Then let him see whether his plan will remove that whereat he rages. 15. Thus have we sent it, this Quran, down to Muhammad, as clear signs, evidence, and proofs, and surely Allah guides whom He wills. 15. Verily those who believe in Allah and in His Messenger Muhammad, and those who are Jews, and the Sabians, and the Christians, and the Magians, and those who worship others besides Allah, truly Allah will judge between them on the day of resurrection. Verily, Allah is over all things a witness. Quote, you want to be happy, so listen to the way. Pay no heed to tomorrow, pay no heed to yesterday. The magic words of life are here and now. O fools who after some mornings go astray. Omar Khayyam. So why continue to misinterpret the words of the Prophet Muhammad today? When he mentioned killing the infidels, enemies of that time. If only this was to defend themselves, given a precise time and space, seen the situation in which they found themselves, threatened by the continuous conflicts they had against the Arab pagans until they reached the Battle of Badr near Medina. Because we can relive the beautiful days of Arabic, Muslim culture, as well as that of Athenian, Roman, Orthodox, Celtic, and many others already lived in the past. They are there, only tormented by the negative emotions that are recorded in history and instilled in the new generations, in their subconscious. And if we break those heavy chains that we have carried for generations, so that one day we can all pray together in Zion, as brothers, Shalom, Salam Aleikum, from the Bible to the Quran, in the land of Jerusalem. But for this celebration, we will not use any type of Bible, but the original Bible, that Bible hidden and forgotten for a long time. Free from any kind of corruption, because the Bible is not an operating system, nor is it an empty space that you have to decorate, add, or remove according to your convenience. Because this Zion is only pro-humanity. Surah At-Talaq 65:1-3. And whoever puts all his trust in Allah, He will suffice for him. True, we all possess, and moreover, God has gifted us with intelligence, the wisdom to absorb and solve complex problems, because continuing to speculate and thinking in pettiness and scarcity. It would be easier to calm the mind after awakening and re-understand that problems are relative mental creations, as if you shift to the quantum and the energetic attraction of abundance, you will live in it. And to understand the Qibla, that correct direction for each one, as it is much stronger to counteract the merciless evil that comes. That's why Masa, a deceased, murdered Anunnaki, is not a good idea for the people of Sumerian. Amini will be remembered from generation to generation because women and the Kurdish people are and live on this land to also have their space in this world, but few want to recognize that they were created in equality and with the same conditions. That's why be vigilant, because you have to walk away after observing or reading that which divides, not burn nothing. Just walk away from any Luther Hitlerian ideas, because there is no pro-Israel or pro-Palestine. There is only a pro-humanity, since we are one in this planet. However, no religion is perfect, and for this reason, each religion is free, none better than another, and every human being equally can decide what they want in their life to pursue their freedom of consciousness. That freedom that is not at all free, because it requires responsibility, courage, patience, temperance, wisdom, creativity, and sometimes a lot of discipline. As well as you can pursue your happiness, that happiness that does not depend on external factors or others, because you can also be happy in quiet solitude, having more time for yourself, or rather, based on Aristotle's eudaimonia, following your life proposals, your goals, fulfilling the present duties correctly, living life to the fullest, and giving priority to what deserves attention, because you are also responsible for this part, having internal control, and acting with virtue. At the same time, because abandoning the sacred and ancient fire of Zoroastrianism, which is good, is better to keep alive a life based on good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Being happy with one's own being, without being petty, and if you have to sin, do it fully. To make it collapse without maintaining that moderation that leaves that experience incomplete, unchanging, and does not allow awakening. in such a way that this will bring the Superman, Nietzsche's Übermensch, by the divine lightning that sharpens you, makes you delirious in madness, and makes you shine above all, like the madman Buddha, Jesus Christ, or Socrates. Thus, Zarathustra reminds us of the compassion of golden words that remain in relation to the earth and are the drops of water that nourish the soil where green grass is born. Without any obligation, free and independent like the Rosicrucian organization, Rosicrucianism. Because religions must have open doors for everyone when necessary, be it for an hour, a day, or a lifetime. And if you want to leave or change, well, the door is always open. Let that rose enter through your roots and lead you to the clairvoyance of the third eye. Observe metaphysics with your senses, entering the cave of Brahma in the center of your brain, crossing consciously in your head, your heart, and your emotions or actions like petals of a rose, knowing the initiation of life. Who am I? Why am I here? Where do I come from? How do I develop a process by which I can become more aware of myself and accelerate my development? Because we are in this world to know ourselves and others, like the alchemy of vision with balanced breathing in yoga, that is, with conscious breathing in the moment. Be present, even though it is difficult at first, but if you continue, you will begin to cleanse your inner self, and slowly you can reach an hour of conscious state, and this will manifest an awakening, an enlightenment, until you can make your daily life in a continuous, stable, and regenerating frequency. However, in politics and religion, nothing is absolute. Only the Lord of Spirits, the Creator. Everything else is relative, and if evil does not exist, there is no good. Therefore, one must have the balance of yin and yang, the secret of the golden flower, like the Chinese Book of Life, to keep spinning in harmony, and understand that we have made too many sacrifices to allow the oppression of political prisons to regain power, and the Gulag Archipelago is a work by the Russian writer Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Enter our homes again. Furthermore, the new generations do not have to live, let alone suffer, these mistakes again, if we have already learned the lesson. That's why Ukraine is not to be touched. Poland is not to be touched. None of the northern European countries are to be touched, and much less do not touch the countries of the Mediterranean Europe. Do not even think about Germany because Europe is one, and it is more united than ever, and they have understood that they have wasted a lot of time on soft diplomacy, and waiting for others to deal with the problems in their area would be a huge mistake because it leaves room for the goblins of darkness, which have been a danger and not a solution. That's why today, many countries are resuming the modernization of the military and tactical control of their forces without involving civilians with those weapons. Quote, "If you think you are too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito." Dalai Lama. And it was then when the Son of Man spoke with the Lord of Spirits on the Eagle Mountain, after deciphering the chronological symbols, opening the iron doors, entering the cube of Metatron, and coming out alive, that were sealed. And when he descended from the mountain, the Lord of Spirits broke the chains that had bound his arms for years, destroying the 2 bracelets that tied his hands, and he carried them wherever he went, to awaken him while he was surprised by the accuracy of the cut and how these bracelets fell everywhere, like shattered glass, in thousands of pieces, after a long torture that made him wait longer than estimated, because he had to wait in the anteroom of a burning kitchen for 37 winters, for the Lord of Spirits to make him fall from his feet and make him rise again. Since he did not recognize the 3 dreams, the first time was in the middle of the night with an intense white tantra stimulus that showed him his blue divinity. She, the Dakini Blue, because she is not a woman do you have to pay, because money does not exist in their world. It has no value for her, and love is immaterial, formless. For that reason, this high level of affection, neither gold can buy it nor sell it. Instead, she is a deity, a real women warrior who was waiting for him. Hence, when he was ready, then she appears on his life to showing him how to transcend the difference between real and fake. Since she is a queen that does not use the false technique of a human female, she does not need to be inauthentic or apply the counterfeit art of seduction. Not falsehood at all. That's why Mystique does not or cannot represent her in a minimum niveau for the light surrounding her, with such a splendor, and what they did together this night, he cannot describe it. She enters out of the cosmos. She walked calming over him and make an imprinting connection. First, between the energies, and then in matter. So, they were in a super-speed movement. Enter both bodies in a unique fusion with transformations repeatedly, more deep and penetrating than the crocodile of the Codex Raffinianus. At the same time, they crossed all over the spaces and planets, and when they finished the act of love which was too intense, so fierce and overwhelming, then, before she leaves, she turned over him slowly, smiled him, and she did an expression with her face that remains for them, only for them in secret, to the next time. Because she chose to him, and he chose to her reciprocally, breaking any time and any space, again and again. He did not understand who it was that visited him in the midst of the cosmos, so this being had no gender, whether it was Shiva, Krishna, or Buddha. Due to the radiant luminosity that this being had, he only felt that pure energy, even though he did not know those cultures, because he comes from the West. Then, after a few days, a second time occurs when he wakes up the next morning, and in an instant, the space and time change to show him that enormous golden Buddha lying on the left side in the middle of the forest, but covered with feces and mud, because he had to live hidden. Lastly, after a few weeks, he enters the third dream while resting a bit in the middle of the afternoon, and it was there that suddenly he had a sudden return, and when he woke up, he didn't understand if he was awake or sleeping. Then he spoke to himself in strange and unheard language. "What are you doing here? Where am I? Whose body is this?" And he continued to breathe heavily because he did not understand. He quickly looked at himself in the mirror and did not recognize himself. Then he decided to just sit in the room's armchair and breathe until he returned to his normal life. Then the Lord of Spirits presented himself to clarify his unborn being for more than 1,700 years, the one that has no form because it is part of the infinite, because it was difficult to find the essential elements that met the requirements of the unborn. In light of this, one day, while the Son of Man was just a child playing with his friends in one of their yards, there was a huge black Riga dog, a Rottweiler, strong and in good health, tied with iron chains in its cage. However, it didn't stop barking and was very agitated, moving from side to side and jumping against the bars of the cage. All this had started since the children arrived, and for unknown reasons, it continued more and more, his agitation. For this reason, these children moved away from that area because of fear of the dog, and continued playing without paying more attention until, in a moment of haste and suddenly, the Rottweiler had broken free from the chains and escaped through the iron gate like a powerful hurricane. This left all the children in a state of terror, completely frightened about what could happen. Whom would this aggressive animal attack? Whom would it bite? And this huge Rottweiler ran fast and directly towards the sun, who at that time was just an ignorant, naive child, and he became so pale that he lost his chiaroscuro skin color, turning white in an instant as the Riga dog jumped to rest between the child's shoulders. Now is when the child thinks, "My time has come, this dog will eat my head." Instead, it was a surprise because the Rottweiler started licking him all over his face. This dog was so happy and excited. It was as if he had found his owner, a relative, someone he loved and had been missing for so long, and was now reunited. But the child cried and screamed loudly because he didn't understand while the Rottweiler continued licking him everywhere, until the owner of the dog arrived, alarmed by everything he saw happening and astonished that nothing bad had occurred. He shouted the dog's name, immediately took him and returned him to his cage. The child left there and arrived home crying, and his mother, Ada, received him slightly anxious about how she found her beloved son, and asked very concerned about what had happened, and he told her everything. "A dog wanted to kill me. Ah!" And the son keeps shouting. "My son, what's happening? Did it bite you somewhere, my love?" The mother, Ada, asks very concerned. "No." And the child continues crying. "Did it bite you?" The mother asks for the second time while looking for any wounds on the boy's body. "No, but it licked me everywhere. That dog licked my whole face." The child responds, still crying. "Well, there's no reason to cry. If anything, it's just a blessing because you're alive. Maybe the dog is just your friend or a relative, and it loves you so much that it jumped for joy, just like I do with you every time you're sad. And we play on the bed with bites." The mother says, not fully understanding everything, but relieved that nothing serious happened, lightening the mood. In this way, it was a moment of internal joy for many of them, because they had found the son they had been waiting for at a young age. And returning to the conversation with the Lord of the spirits and the Son of Man in his awakening. "Who are you? Where do you come from? What is your home? When were you born?" The son asks the same questions to the Lord of the spirits because his mother and father in spirit had been desperately looking for him since his birth, and many years had passed without him recognizing them. "I am what you know I am, and why do you come up here?" The Lord of the spirits responds and asks the son in return. "I don't know, O Master, because I was born on the day of madness, and even the annual calendar of Mother Earth was altered. And until the metamorphosis of being takes effect, I won't be able to tell you. But I don't care because we're not in the times of the French Revolution, with the Jacobins and Robespierre. Instead, we still live in the trafficking of human beings as commodities, seeing them in slavery, without any rights, without dignity to life. And then I wonder how I can speak of the liberation of consciousness if they still can't maintain a healthy body, that is, the basic needs of the body. So the son is in total confusion, like the fool he has always been in recent years. Do not let the mentality of lack enter you. This is just a deception of the men of iron and fire, because they are limited. Instead, know that I have given them blessings and abundance, sufficient for all and more. On the other hand, do not let the separation of things or anyone torment you. Do not let your heart fill with resentment and your mind be confused by complaints. Get out of the trap. Do not let your romantic emotions control you and make you lose control of your life. Forget preferences. Be one with me. Do not focus on a place. Look forward. Look at the sky. Everything is the same, and it is always your home in your heart. Do not let the taste palette distract you on your way. Enjoy these foods to nourish and reinforce your energy that your body needs to stay focused. And tell me, where does that name you carry come from? Because the Lord wanted to give him a sign. My father in flesh and soul, or my mother in spirit. Who knows? Although they always told me that my father on his mother's side in flesh and soul originates from that place called Rhineland. But I can't say for sure because I don't know my family tree. He responds, more confused. At least in this, you don't have to worry, because all my children come from the same mud, with two pigments, from the same land, from the navel of the world, Ethiopia. However, they are so strong that they can adapt to any place, situation, or environment they find themselves in, and the son breathes a sigh of calm in his heart after so much confusion, wandering the world, and in the end, the Lord gives him that news, that gift upon hearing those words. in his first revelation. For this reason, after a meditative night in the full moon, he takes the sword and all the weapons. But before that, the Son of Man kneels with his right knee before the Lord of the Spirits to ask for his blessing, and at the same time to ask for forgiveness for what he does not want to do, but is necessary. And at that moment, a strong wind rises, the birds sing, the leaves of the trees fall joyfully for the present autumn, and in the same way, a ladybug arrives slowly and sits on his right leg, walks for about 5 seconds, and then flies away. Back to the old institution, and after so many failed attempts, the council gathers, not the Council of Nicaea to address this controversy and take the guidelines, a virtual EQ council that they have always used in the last 2,000 years. Applying their discipline or force, eklogistic law, on matters of sex, religion, politics, morality, and judiciary, if it can be called that, and not only of their sacred city, but also of the whole world inhabited by human beings who have left the Garden of Eden to live in the phase of the mind. And with this luck, they continue their control over humanity, deceived and abused, without yet being awakened. While no one can wonder why the problem of mass pedophilia in this territory, the depravity of a covert moralism, or how their bank cannot be controlled, maybe they are untouchable, they are the true gods and goddesses. When it is used to launder money from unclear origins, perhaps from political kickbacks obtained with their power from their houses scattered all over the world, archidiplemania, not to mention the profits obtained from the abuse of prostitution, mafia, drugs, wars, and more. This means everything that greases the pockets of that non-religious state. The case of the Son of Man is reopened, and so far, no solution, negotiation, or resolution has been found despite the negotiations and actions applied. So, I call for a reassessment immediately. I call you all to an urgent retreat within 24 hours, as we have to hold a Celestina meeting at our official headquarters. The President emphasizes at the beginning of the virtual meeting with a tone of displeasure and bad temper because he did not believe he would have to reach this point after his ascent obtained with so many supernatural efforts. With an emergency act, the Secretary responds to all the experts. Emergency act? What's happening? Worriedly asks 4. Haven't we had a Celestina call since the times of Luther? Exclaims 6. But we are in the middle of a pandemic, and it's difficult to get there. Can I delegate someone? Asks 11 since he wants to justify the long journey he must take. True, this week I have the special selection of the semi-collectors. Complains 12 since he loves the task of selecting his vassals. Well, take a canoe, a train, or a private flight. I don't care. See you here tomorrow with or without the pandemic. The President orders everyone immediately to be present at the official headquarters in Vaticagna and closes the virtual window of that meeting. And then all the experts run out to prepare and organize an unforeseen last-minute trip that, without knowing what it is about, creates more anxiety for them. Fortunately, they have enough power and wealth to twist the laws, since for them, this pandemic is just a mental game, and that's why they have immunity to the virus and diplomatic immunity. In the meantime, many of them take some tranquilizers to calm their anxiety. Others start drinking alcohol. Others use less traditional and self-harming techniques to confuse the mind due to the countless inhuman repressions they live or enjoy in secret. An expert eating like a desperate pig without stopping to swallow. Gluck, gluck. One of these experts starts heavily drinking his expensive bottles of alcohol before setting out on the flight. Shoes. Another one sniffs some lines of the best quality of cocaine which exist in the world. Talk, talk. Another expert exaggerates with some drops he puts in a glass of water to control his anxiety. For your fault, for your fault, for your great fault. And another expert even has time to engage in his sex bondage therapy before his departure, with his sexy prostitute with long hair, she only dressing a nun wimple, French lingerie, and red high heels, so she is hitting him with a whip in the back while he stands tied up, as an act of penance, and his mouth is gagged. Um, um, um. The expert moans for pleasure every time he is whipped, as he is a sadist. When finally they all gather in the room and starts the Celestina meeting, the secretary opens the dialogue. Well, until now we have followed him very closely, even before his birth, his family. His father was persecuted after the Revolution of '65 for over 12 years, so he had to live, suffering different attempted assassinations, as a fugitive in his own country, similar to how Cuban revolutionaries were persecuted for their influences. Instead, his submissive and fearful mother, of her, of us, of the cosmopolitan church. Thanks to the good education we offered him from his childhood. And part of that, his uncle Pindaro, commander of the Caribbean Air Forces, was sent abroad with his entire family for more than 4 years, a golden prison, as a military diplomat in Paris, France. The secretary reads and briefly summarizes to the council. We watched the Son of Man grow up, educated with our beliefs, and in the end, we brought him closer to our eternal city. But he slipped through our fingers, like a fish escaping a fisherman's grasp. The secretary responds disheartened. What have we done so far? Asks the president, while taking, opening, and reading some essential points from the Black Book. Where this manual, the Black Book, offers him a wide range of ideas used to this day. Maneuver that not even Machiavelli himself can imagine. Quote, every actual state is corrupt. Good men must not obey the laws too well. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Well, in recent years, we have been able to control his mind with indirect mechanisms, leading him to depression, anxiety. We could even assign him a low position of survival to make him understand his place clearly and directly in our society. And to some extent, it worked very well. The secretary summarizes. And then what happened? Furiously interrogates the president to his assembly of experts. It's them. They bother again. So he deserves the stake like Giordano Bruno, exclaims an expert present, whom we will call numerically 3. Maiori forsan cum timora sententiam in me furtis quam ego accipiam. Perhaps you tremble more when pronouncing this sentence than I do hearing it. Says expert 1, those words once uttered by that man of a rebellious mind. What are you saying, 1? Shouts 3 to his colleague 1. Nothing. It's just to remind you, dear brother, that the time of the Roman Inquisition or the Crusades cannot be repeated, or we want to relive the era of Ivanhoe. But I'm curious. Who are they? Expert 1 asks. Expert 3 becomes very bitter and nostalgic for that good time they had experienced in the past in the church, with the power of torture that had been granted to them. In addition to that, he longed again for that absolute and distorted power that they could apply at once to anyone who did not agree with their teachings. They, the blacks, the Indians, the Latinos, those mafiosos, the Americans, not to mention the heretics, the Muslims, the Asians, the irreverent Nordic whites, the Zoroastrians, the shamans, the pagans, the Sufis, the mystics, the animists, the gypsies, the Masons, the Arabs, the agnostics, the Jews, those Hindus, Jains, Druids, the non-practicing and distant, those Taoists and Buddhists, the Rosicrucians, the other religions, the magnates, the occultists, the Satanists. 3 stops speaking to catch his breath and breathe because he lacks breath from the agitation. But aren't all of them part of our system? Those we formed in the pre-synod of our clerical fascist matrix. 6 responds flabbergasted. Once upon a time in America, responds 2. What do you mean? Ask 8 to 2, but 1 responds immediately. In summary, the 5 rings, says 1. Do you mean the 5 continents? Interrupts 7. Yes, exactly. The whole world, responds 1. This creates a strong tension of pause and nervousness in the council. Therefore, to cut that anxiety that was strongly felt in the air, the secretary intervenes to break the silence. We sent Rat 1 and shortly after Rat 2, but with no success. The secretary recalls, Rat 1 is a girl with 3 children who, with kindness and seduction, took him to bed. But the son immediately asks her to stop and says condom, and she innocently doesn't know how or why, not even how to put on a condom, because she apparently was always alone with her husbands for many years and raising her children. Unfortunately, the son has a very keen instinct and sense of smell. In fact, from the moment she undressed, he sensed the diseases she carried internally. Instead, Rat 2 is a young woman who is there, drawing attention in the places he frequents to annoy him and incite the son to respond aggressively with a discussion against her. So he follows her to the point where a group of men awaits them, who apparently had and should defend her. As it is obvious, and the rest is history. But this was also ignored by him, and everything was in vain. We've also tried offering him money, a lot of money, or fame, desperately asks Expert 2 after reflection. Yes, money, money, money. Starving people sell easily. Conversion or hell, exclaims Expert 4. We've tried that too. Shortly after the pilgrimage in the visit of the Heyoka Indians, remember? Well, we made him several offers, composite, multiplied offers in more and more, and adding zeros every time they were rejected, to afford a good life and leave all this. But this son is crazy, stubborn, or very determined, because instead of accepting the money we proposed, he looks, smiles, goes back on his way, and doesn't respond. The secretary reads the fascicle surprised. Of course, you forgot that he loves Otto von Bismarck's advice because of his phrases, such as, only a fool learns from his mistakes. The wise learn from the mistake of others. Or by, the main thing is to make history, not write it. Without forgetting, a wise person is only one who doesn't know much but what is necessary. Thus, avoid the people who try to diminish your ambitions, so that preventive war is like committing suicide for fear of death, as well as be polite. Write diplomatically. Even in a declaration of war, the rules of courtesy are observed, so that a conquering army on the border will not be stopped by eloquence, as well as a man's life is a game of chess who play according to his art. On the other hand, cherish your traitor, because a traitor is the best master. Like, freedom is a luxury that not everyone can afford, and therefore, never trust Russians because Russians don't even trust themselves. And the expert continues reading his notes. Politics is the art of the possible, the achievable, the art of the next best thing. And thus, what we have learned from history is that nobody learns from history, because stupidity is a gift from God, but it should not be abused. Consequently, when the arguments end, the guns began to speak. Force is a fool's last argument, and in this way, I was destined by nature to be diplomatic, since I was born on the first day of April. So one ends, and he closed his notes that he has very well preserved. It can be said that the son also loves the life example given by Giuseppe Garibaldi in the world where women collected the water used by him as holy water. Says Expert 5. Agreed. So, if the son doesn't want money, there will be other people who will accept our blessings with much love. Contact everyone. Yes, everyone who has been or is around him. Acquaintances, colleagues or work bosses, friends, girlfriends, wife or ex, and very importantly, family members. suggests 5, that they quickly find whoever can be seduced with that refined art of convincing. We are already doing it actively. In fact, some accept and are very enthusiastic about doing everything we ask of them because they see him as weak and foolish, and they immediately try everything they have in mind. They keep trying, and after some attempts, they leave or abandon the practice. In addition to that, others do not want to take this kind of fortune because they say it is like a death sentence, a signature of curses for generation after generation, up to the 3rd and 4th generation. The secretary responds to the entire council. Will it be just luck, a lot of luck that this son has? Or will it be the CPK that has him extremely altered, superior to the norm since his birth? Annoyed and nervous, 5 hints at the council. If this were just luck or CPK, then what is the use of the result of working hard until late at night? Getting up early with so much energy to follow his daily schedule with enthusiasm. Fighting his worst enemy, himself, meaning his doubts, his weaknesses. Overcoming his mistakes and failures to improve along the way. Stepping strongly over every obstacle that stands in the son's way to jump better. Taking risks every day to grow as a man. So, if you do this for more than 20 years, it won't be just luck or CPK, one concludes calmly. I don't care if it's not luck or CPK, because we already have one in his family who is very active and has been doing a great job for a long time. The secretary begins to explain. Ah, yes, and who is it? Tell us, Desperate 4 asks. Quote, you call him a dumb ox, but I tell you this dumb ox shall bellow in the doctrine so loud his bellowing will fill the world. St. Thomas Aquinas. Of course, yes, because since the second catharsis, which is that part where human flaws are sought to heal their wounds and free the soul for eternal life. For this reason, and after more than 12 years ago, his blood sister Adriana confessed that she had suffered from envy towards her older brother for being the firstborn in the family. And as you know, thanks to the doctrine of confession, we are updated, and we have noticed that from time to time, she externalizes some residues of this sin, and we know that it is something that is latent there, since it is not completely cured, but it was not very strong because it was only at level 1. This means slight contempt and criticism, but if we intervene and feed this little grain of sand, we can create a castle. We can recreate the act of Cain and Abel. Therefore, we are doing very well. The secretary paused as he shared this news joyfully with everyone at the council gathered around the table. Very true. Ha ha ha, 3 says, and some of them laugh heartily. We have prepared an ideal life partner for her. His name is Citium. The secretary continues to explain to the council. Blessed be innocent 3rd. 6 implores with joy. For this reason, the son behaved like the young pope and did not confess to us only before God with stones, plants, or animals. And look, we had controlled him so much to have him literally weak, docile in a wheelchair, drooling, and unable to speak, understand, ask for help, or defend himself. Like a young man with Down syndrome, incorporated into his mind by the small spoonfuls of shaping words that extended to his mind and heart in order to alter the natural chromosome. That is, denature him from his origin. Excuse me. No, I meant convert him. But it didn't serve much, almost nothing. 2 points out. Silence 2. I want to go back to the progress we've made. Brothers, think that she, his sister, is very disciplined and responsible, focused on her goals and proposals. She had a career of over 12 years in asset financial management, and she gave up everything for her beloved husband, to serve him in everything, who already has her under control. Furthermore, Citium is doing a very clean and precise job, like a scalpel in execution, nourishing that little envy, turning it into hatred. But Citium wants more. He wants the heir's throne. He shouts it too because the secretary wants to conclude with the updates to the president and the council. Well, give Citium everything he wants, as long as he removes this obstacle of the sun, and Citium or Adriana becomes the virus that divides this once united family. Expresses the president, desperate to find a solution and return to his sexual exploits of expansion. Peccato! It has already been discovered because the sun noticed it after his return from London, and Citium fears the consequences. But the sun has forgiven both of them and disappeared because he doesn't want such atrocities to happen in his fleshly home, as long as he respects his sister Adriana because he still loves her. One responds, "Damn it!" 4 shouts, very angry and desperate. What if we organize a new plan? We send a couple to walk near the sun, where he'll see them together. The girl will be scared, scream, and call her boyfriend. And as a consequence, the boyfriend will defend her. But he has to be an expert in wrestling, so he can punch him, grab him by the neck, and strangle him to death. Advises the expert 10, suggesting this strategy from the Black Book. We've done it. And failed, the secretary responds to expert 10. But what if we send a blood friend, given that he doesn't have money to rent a house, much less to afford a room? A friend like Mambete, who is of African origin, and besides, the house for rent has to be cheap. In other words, a good offer hard to refuse, with an easy-to-pay rent. Moreover, Mambete is a good Italian chef and can prepare a good dinner. Succulenta, expert 8 proposes. Tried, but he doesn't fall for it because he's not racist. He doesn't build friendships or any kind of relationship just based on a social scheme, let alone care whether it's a woman or a man, white, Asian or black, old or young. The only thing he's interested in to share his time with someone is to feel their real energy, their intention, that vibration we each emit, whether it's good or toxic, as well as observing people's actions. Not words full of milk and sugar. You understand? Expert 2 responds. A question: what does this uncivilized, this Latino, this Popolvu Indian with African feature and European or Tibetan origins like to eat? 6 asks, his hungry belly growling. I don't know, but I don't think it's time to play poka tok with a savage like the Son of Man. 11 reminds. We've learned that in Spain, he was crazy about paella because it's like the locrio of his childhood home. But he also rejected the invitation to a typical Spanish restaurant that we made with an emissary. The secretary responds to the council. Then it's time to intervene without wasting any more time. No mercy, no compassion, as we have much to lose, and our history has endured for over 2,000 years. For the sun to come now and jeopardize our supremacy, I mean doctrine. So, take him as soon as possible. Take him to a butcher, and he comes out in a black bag or wrapped in a carpet because we'll find a place to dump that trash. And it's simpler. Expert 8 calls for a precise intervention with visceral rage. We've already found a safe and quiet place for him, where we can let his remains rest in peace. How about an old cemetery? Just like young Eos from the Holy House, whose relatives are still looking for her, and 37 years have passed. 9 recalls with a malicious look. Huh, sure. 8 exults in that very successful operation. You mean Eos, the goddess of dawn, wonderful, she who always announces the arrival of her brother Helios, the sun. 2 asks, who loves stories of peace and harmony for humans. No, it's actually an acronym used in the secret archives of the Holy House, which means Eos. Ella Oriana secretly raped, disappeared, and suicided, while the family was paid with the currency of betrayal after working faithfully and giving their lives in service for 7 generations, for 7 ponxifes or prefects of the house. One responds, what a revelation! Then there are so many Eos. She's neither the first nor the last, although I'm not very aware if we can do the same in Renania, because it's not like the Holy House and its surroundings. You know what I mean. I mean, it's not manageable at our whim, our autonomous laws, our theo-authoritarian organization. 2 is confused by the differences between the 2 cities, the 2 peoples. Quote, Salve. Apoya Records. No, no, no. Then throw him into a tank of acid. Yes, acid is more efficient. 4 interrupts. We're not exaggerating. We still have open options. We have the innocent in the field, right? The president says, hoping not to have to abandon the chair he took without divine permission. What does the innocent do? 2 asks. Exactly that. Nothing. Just a few maneuvers in the spa room or wherever he finds him, you know? A wrong look, a wrong answer, among other things, and he immediately returns to his role, meaning being a servant of God, simple, weak, and old, nothing more, and the little cat of Maria Ramos that throws the stone and hides the hand, nothing less. So we have to pray with the hope that he loses patience and responds. The son versus the innocent. The president responds with his hanging hope in this announcement while squeezing a white gold cross he had on the table with his hand. But, wait, but if the innocent brings him a salbutamol, the asthma inhaler leaves it there nearby, in the dressing rooms, just in case he wants to take a puff. 8 suggests with his creativity. Already done. The innocent leaves the inhaler on the floor next to him, while minutes before, in collaboration with a visitor who is also there and uses his medical device. But all he does, at most, is give a brief look at the innocent while throwing the medicine to the ground. So it's all ineffective, reads the president, discouraged. And what happened with the reconciliation when ours tried to contact him again? Why try to approach the Son of Man frantically, and then quickly U-turn, run back and disappear? Why be so upset with him? Tu asks, confused. Because everything was very beautiful when he asked the Muslim community to stop interpreting the Quran and accept religious tolerance. Or when he told the Jews that the chosen people by the Lord of Spirits is the entire humanity. But we forget that instead, we have to celebrate together in Jerusalem with the original Bible, that is, not with the 5 version, 1.6180339887499895. Also, offer equal health and education for everyone, and free all the harlots from the Roman Pharisee code. One explains why they don't want to dialogue with the Son, and he is not interested at all. Now I understand the complexity of the matter in this beautiful council, reflects too in a low voice. Salve Regina, Mater Misericordia, this Son of Man is hitting us with his polla, without an analgesic. Exclaims exhausted 4, without the harlots. No, it is impossible. No, we will not be able to choose the new patriarch. We won't be a cosmopolitan religion anymore. We won't be able to control the economy, laws, wars, global crises. Our earthly paradise will come to an end, and the financial quotas will descend beyond hell in a few days. Despairs 3. Because these harlots strongly support the pendulum of this old clock. Under the basement of this old temple, is that what you mean? Verse 9, confused by so much stress. But we must keep the iconography of the great harlot alive, as our predecessors have done. 3 repeats, scared. Iconography. To me, this story of the great harlot sounds a little bit porno. This is pure covert pornography. 2 explains to 3 very calmly, but in that way, there's no more supreme race or group. Then what are we here for? Complains 12. No, only meritocracy. Responds 2 very calmly in his stupidity. No, over my dead body, exclaims the patriarch president of the council. We need to find a solution to this situation immediately. Demands 11 to everyone in the council. Secretary, what does our mother say? AI Av, Regina. Can we start the World War III? The president asks the council secretary in a hurry. This super-quantum computer, called AI Av Regina, answers with a metallic voice of cyber god. It doesn't suit us. Oh, Pater de, why is this artificial intelligence so complicated? And who is this son of man talking to? This man breaks the cycle of proselytism. Without wars, conflicts, or scarcity, people will no longer need us. And if they discover what they carry within self, blasphemy, this would truly be the end, exclaims 7, and suddenly says blasphemy with a demonic voice, then returns to himself. With nature, the only religion, and it has no name. 1 responds. Oh, what will it be? I don't understand why we can't do it ourselves, complains 5. Why does nature choose you? You don't have the power to choose. 9 says, annoyed. Let's roast this fish. He's asking for too much, and we can't go forward like this. 6 proposes. We can't, the secretary replies. Then, let's take him to court, quickly, 6 suggests. Quote, the problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. Jack Sparrow. Yes, before it's too late, confirms 10. Ah, but if the Son of Man prefers to be judged by 12 than thrown into the pit by 6, he'll devour us like honey from a bee, 1 reflects. Pater Redemptoris, does this Son of Man have a quantum as a computer? 6 exclaims because he can't believe that someone, like the Son of Man, can understand so much about the secrets of life in the world. No computer. It's just that the Lord of Spirits whispers in his mind and touches his heart to increase his intuition. 1 answers. Damn, we'll have to pay this Son of Man like a white man, complains 6, irritated. Otherwise, he'll show the world how to connect with nature, pantheism, and increase consciousness. 12 despairs with great terror. Then this Son of Man will get rich by exposing us as criminals. We can't allow that, President. That's total blasphemy. 11 shouts at the large table. Why, what difference does it make to be a criminal or enter a clerical fascist order? 2 asks because he doesn't understand the difference. Nothing. It's the same shit wrapped in different plastic covers. 1 responds to 2 without any fear of what the others might think. Shut up, 1. Remember that you're not the pirate of the Caribbean like the Son of Man. Instead, remember where you're sitting and to whom you belong. The president of the council shouts at him to moderate his language. Oh, sure. I've always belonged to the human race like the Son of Man. I respect everyone. Without an us, without them. 1 responds determinedly to the president. Yes, but not without the harlots, please. Because if we lose that mythology, we'll end up like the ancient Greeks, since it's the source of our ancient institution, and it will no longer be able to be sustained. 3 expresses very sad and bitter. And what will the harlots do? 2 asks. They'll have to learn another profession, start a family, and do it for the love of art, as always. It's normal. 1 answers. I'm not going to tell those women. Let someone else talk to those bandits, complains the secretary of the council. Let's take a break and come back at 3 o'clock, the president says, tired of the matter.